Welcome to AXREM Insights, developing healthcare through medtech and innovation. Join Melanie Johnson and Sully Edgington as they talk with our industry leaders and experts.
Hello and welcome to Series 2, our UKIO special edition. We are your co-hosts, Melanie Johnson.
And I'm Sully Edgington.
Today we have the pleasure to be speaking with Dr. Emma Hyde, President of UKIO and the Associate Professor of Diagnostic Imaging at University of Derby. Now let's get ready to find out a little more.
Hi, Emma. Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about yourself and UKIO. So without further ado, we'll get into the questions.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So with this series theme being obviously UKIO, I'll hand over to you, Emma, to just tell us a little bit about yourself as obviously the president of UKIO. What's your story, background, etc.?
Thanks, Melanie. So I am a diagnostic radiographer. I trained at Sheffield Hallam University in the 1990s, which gives you a little bit of an idea of my age. So I worked for 10 years in clinical practice at a number of the trusts in the East Midlands. I worked at Nottingham City Hospital, I worked at the Derbyshire Royal Infirmary, and I worked at the Leicester Royal Infirmary in a number of different clinical roles. I was a clinical specialist in CT and MRI scanning. I loved working in CT and MRI, mainly because it gave me that extra time to talk to patients, to interact with them, to get them to know them a little bit. And I also really always loved working with students. So I trained as a clinical supervisor very early on in my career, as soon as I possibly could, and worked with them a lot in all of my clinical roles. So it was quite a natural move for me to go into education and join the University of Derby in 2006.
Thanks, Emma. And I know that we've obviously met on a number of occasions, and I can see with your planning of UKIO that you're hugely passionate about education. So I just wondered kind of where does that passion come from and what are your kind of drivers?
Yeah, so as I said, I really enjoy working with students. I always have. I trained to become a clinical supervisor as soon as I could when I qualified, and I continued undertaking that role, supervising and assessing students in all the clinical roles that I held. In my last clinical role, where I was a superintendent at Leicester Royal Infirmary, I had significant responsibility for education and training within that particular NHS trust. So there was lots and lots of student-related work, not just supervising and assessing, but organising inductions, helping out with rotas, helping out with supervision of students' dissertations, and interviewing prospective students in conjunction with the University of Derby, where I work now. So I moved into the university in 2006. So I've been there quite a long time now, 18 years. And I've always been driven by a desire to influence and shape the next generation of radiographers, to hopefully encourage them to be person-centred in terms of their approaches and be the best radiographers that they can be.
Fab. And I would imagine that must be so rewarding, because at UKIO, you must see some of the students that are now qualified and been in the profession for a few years. So I would imagine for me, I've seen people that I've helped through their career and kind of progress them and develop them, and it is really rewarding to kind of see the end result and see them on their kind of career path. So I would imagine that must be so lovely for you.
Oh, it's amazing. That's one of the best bits about it, actually, to see some of the former students. Last year, I bumped into somebody who was a radiology service manager at a very high level, working at a really, really high level. There's also quite a few of my former students who work for AXREM companies or other industry partner companies. There's obviously lots and lots of my former students in clinical practice, and there's also a number of students that work in education, some of them even at my own institution. So I taught them, and now I work with them.
Oh, wow.
Which is lovely.
Yeah, no, that's really fabulous. And I feel like, especially when we go to UKIO, I feel like AXREM is a bit of a community, but that community extends far beyond industry to a lot of our external stakeholders and clinicians and people working in the NHS. So that's, this is all kind of part of that community. So in terms of UKIO, can you tell us a little bit about UKIO 2024 and why you've decided to get involved in the event?
Yeah, so what I'll probably do is just run you a little bit through my history with the event, that I think that'll help to make a bit more sense of where I am with it now. So I've attended UKIO, although of course it wasn't called this back in my student days, but I've attended it right back since the 1990s. I always enjoyed visiting the technical exhibition, seeing all the new equipment. It was always very exciting to think what might be coming into the clinical settings that I was working in. But over the years, my involvement and attendance at UKIO has changed, and especially once I started working at the university, my interest changed from spending most of my time in the technical exhibition to a mix of technical exhibition and scientific program. And then over the last few years, probably about over the last 5 to 10 years, as I've become very research active, my interests have changed again, and it's been a mix of the technical exhibition, but also starting to submit abstracts, presenting posters, presenting proffered papers, and then obviously reaching the heights where I was started to become an invited speaker. And then after that, of course, it changed again because I joined the Working Party in 2021, where I led on the education and workforce sessions, tapping into my wide network of clinical and academic colleagues to put together hopefully very engaging sessions. They certainly got good feedback, so I think they were. I stepped up then to the Vice President for Education, Workforce, Research and Service Improvement in 2023. And then after an expressions of interest process became President-elect in 2023, which means that I will be President this year for 2024 and next year, the 2025 event. So in terms of what's happening this year at the 2024 event, we've got a really, really packed agenda. Do you want me to talk a little bit about some of the speakers and the different things that are happening?
That would be great. Yeah, I'm sure the listeners would really want to know what's going to be going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some really exciting keynote speakers for delegates, and for all of our industry partners who are attending this year. So just to run you through who those are. On Monday, we have Dr. Tammy Boyce, who's from the Marmot Institute. They're based down in London, and they do a lot of work on health inequalities. And Tammy's coming along to talk about the impact of health inequalities on people and how that links to us working in imaging and oncology services. So I think that's going to be a really engaging session where she helps us to understand perhaps some of the things that impact on people's health, particularly from a cancer point of view, that we might need to consider as imaging and oncology professionals. And then on Tuesday, we've got a really exciting plenary debate lined up for you. We've got Dr. Rachel Clark, the author of the book and TV series Breathtaking, coming along to speak. We've got Darren McGarvey, who's an author, poet, and rapper, coming along to talk about his lived experience of growing up in poverty and now becoming a very active campaigner about how poverty impacts on health. And we've got Leanne Adu from the Black Women Rising movement, who's coming along to talk about her lived experience of being diagnosed with breast cancer as a young mum. So I think that's going to be really, really engaging discussion there for the delegates to come along to. Then finally, in terms of our keynote speakers, we've got Dr. Kath Halliday, President of the Royal College of Radiologists, speaking on the Wednesday. So alongside that, of course, we've got the full scientific programme, which includes a whole range of speakers from all sorts of different backgrounds. There are, I think, about 300 speakers all in all coming along to speak. So we have a real mix of radiologists, oncologists, radiographers, medical physicists. So there's lots and lots of things in there for everybody, no matter what their background. We have the Research Hub running again. We have Pitch Your Project running for the first time. These are both new initiatives to increase the profile of research at the conference. And we've also obviously got the amazing technical exhibition, which I'm really, really looking forward to seeing. We had some fantastic stands last year, so I'm really excited to see what all of our industry partners are going to do this year.
Oh, excellent. As I say, last year was actually my first year at UKIO, and I found it fascinating as they go around the stands, seeing the equipment and machinery, listen to some of the speakers. So obviously, what would you say to someone who is debating attending a future UKIO event to encourage them to attend?
I would say come along. There really is something for everybody working in imaging and oncology. It doesn't matter what your role is, what level of seniority you are. You can be a student radiographer, you can be a trainee radiologist or oncologist, you can be a very senior manager. There is something there for everyone, because the beauty of it is the fact that there is the technical exhibition and the scientific programme. So it means you can tailor your conference experience and split your time between the two as you feel appropriate. So you can pick the sessions that are interesting, and you can look for the exhibitors areas that are relevant to your particular area of practice. There'll be something there for everyone. It's also important to remember there are different types of tickets as well. So you can get full Congress tickets, which obviously we'd love everybody to buy because they allow you access to everything. So you get everything. But you can get a team ticket, which you can share with colleagues. So up to 3 people can share a team ticket from one NHS trust. And you can, of course, get an exhibition only ticket for the Wednesday, which is free.
Thanks, Emma. And I think as well, my experience of UKIO over the last few years is that, like I say, about that community, that networking, you know, all of our NHS colleagues are working so hard, and actually to be able to step away from that for a few days and actually breathe, learn, let your hair down and have some fun. There's also lots of social elements to UKIO as well. And I know our members definitely embrace that by, you know, we've obviously got our drinks reception this year, but other social events that take place run by UKIO and industry as well. So I think in terms of, I always think of the exhibition, you see a lot of innovations. So how do you think AXREM members' innovative technologies can help the healthcare professionals of the future, and how these technologies can impact the workforce in the NHS?
Yes, absolutely. It's a really good point, Sally. So, technology and changes in technology impact on the working lives and the working environment of everybody working in imaging and oncology. Our professions and our practice rely on fast evolving technology to acquire either high quality diagnostic images or to deliver highly targeted radiotherapy. So, the healthcare professionals of the future do need to keep up to date with technologies and how they're changing. And the exhibition is obviously a fantastic opportunity to do that. I mean, a really good example of seeing this play out over the last few years at UKIO is AI. Just a few years ago, this was something that we heard about at events and did have a plenary speaker about, but had a limited adoption in clinical practice. But now, just a few years later, we're seeing radical changes in clinical practice and in clinical workflows because of the adoption of AI. So, as healthcare professionals, we need to attend events like UKIO to come and look around the technical exhibition to keep up with the changes and to ensure we're able to adapt to these new technologies and these new products that our industry partners are offering. Conversations with exhibitors at UKIO are a really good way to do that. They can explain the technology to us, they can help us understand how their products work, and we can think about how we might then be able to implement them. We've also, of course, got the industry-sponsored sessions at UKIO, where our industry partners will be sharing new and emerging practice, which again, really useful in terms of informing us as health and care professionals. It means that we hear about the latest cutting-edge technology and gets us thinking about what things might be like next year, 2 years, 5 years. So great opportunities on all fronts to learn about all of those things.
I agree, actually, in terms of AI. When I started AXREM 5 years ago, it was kind of the buzzword, if you like, especially pre-COVID. But actually now seeing it being deployed is fantastic. And I always feel that AI can help create those efficiencies, which will help with the workforce shortage. That's kind of, I think, innovation is the quick fix to that. Obviously, we're not suddenly going to get a huge extra workforce. That takes time, and obviously for people to train, etc. So I do think innovation has a really important role to play in the future workforce. So I think we've touched quite a lot on UKIO and, you know, what's going to be going on there. So it'd be good to now find out a bit more kind of about you, Emma. So if you could click your fingers now and change anything in your life, whether it be personal or professional, what would it be?
Oh, it's a tricky one. Good question. I don't know if I would necessarily change anything. I'm very blessed to have a very happy and healthy family. I've got 2 teenage sons and a lovely little dog. Of course, should have mentioned the husband as well. So, and I'm lucky to have a career that constantly inspires and challenges me. I guess the one thing I might change, particularly right at the moment while the weather is so awful, is to have more time relaxing on a warm, sunny beach.
I know how you feel. I'm kind of a similar situation to you. I think if I could change anything, it would be to have more time. I'm sure you're the same. I literally spend my life back to back on meetings, and obviously with a busy work and home life. Sometimes I'm sure you're the same. You feel like you're juggling about 100 balls in the air at any one time. So yeah, but that's a great answer. I'll hand over to Mel now.
Yeah, so going on to my quirky question. Okay, if you could have dinner with any famous person, whether they're dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So this was also a very good question. I think it would have to be Marie Curie. As the female scientist who paved the way to using radiation for medical purposes, pioneered it in the First World War, I'd love to hear from her direct, her story, what it was like to be a female spearheading that innovation, that technology. So I think it would be amazing to have a conversation with her and learn from her experiences.
Yeah, it would be amazing, wouldn't it, to go back in time and be able to speak to some of these legends.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Fab. Well, Emma, thank you so much for your time today. We found out loads about yourself and UKIO, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you and the rest of our community in Liverpool next week.
Thank you very much for inviting me to come along. It's been a pleasure.
And join me and Sally next week when we will be speaking to members live at the event. Wish us luck. If you have enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit subscribe or feel free to share the podcast with friends.